Hello, this is Idodmg and welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while since I posted a new video, but I have been enjoying Tiny Tina's Wonderlands recently, and I wanted to do a review video and help you decide if this game is worth your $65 or not. I'm going to break down the game for you, kind of share my thoughts and opinions on the game, and I will have all the timestamps down below for everything about the game. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is a new Borderlands game. I haven't played Borderlands since probably the second one. It's been a while, and it's Borderlands, but it's a good Borderlands. I enjoyed this game quite a bit. The best part of the game, in my opinion, was the storytelling and the writing, the narrative, and all of it from Tiny Tina. She is just an absolutely hilarious character, and I had at least more than a dozen laugh out loud moments from the comedy within the storytelling and the writing. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is kind of a spin-off of Dungeons and Dragons, D&D. Instead, in this game, they call it B&B, which is Bunkers and Badasses. And with that in mind, you have Tiny Tina as kind of the game master, right? She runs the whole game. And with that, you have a game board, which actually is the overworld for the game. Within the overworld, there's so many different layers to the world. And it seems like there's a lot there when you first start playing. The overworld consists of different quests and stories and shrines that you can find pieces for to rebuild these shrines and get permanent buffs for your character. There's also lucky dice, other hidden stuff that you can find along the way. I won't spoil all of it. And also within the overworld, as you would expect, there are dungeons. And then there's also zones that are a whole nother layer of the world. Some of these zones, I don't know, I kind of call them like story zones, I guess, because they have different storytelling elements, such as your main quest and side quest within these zones. But that's not it. These zones are massive and they're very diverse, and there's so many different types of maps. I mean, one never really felt like the same. Within all of these storytelling maps, I guess this is what I'm going to call them, they are huge. There's loads to explore. You have side quests, you have hidden loot, you have hidden marbles, and you have lucky dice that we'll touch on here in a little bit. But back to the overworld, as I mentioned, you have dungeons and the maps that we just talked about, but you also have the lucky dice that you can go around and find. And there's some other little mechanics and things that you unlock. And I don't know, it's just one of those things where you're running around and you're just you can't wait to see what you're going to unlock so you can go and explore this area and do that. It's just all really well put together. My number one complaint with the world, and there's really only about 3 layers really, as you have the overworld, the big maps, the dungeons. And the dungeons is what I want to talk about, and they're all really set up the same, where you go in and it's just a room that you clear out, and when you're clear you go to the next room. It's not like a real dungeon where you go in and you explore all the nooks and crannies or anything like that. But then again, this is just for this part of the game. We'll talk about the end game and how all that kind of connects later on in the video. Loot and itemization. This is a Borderlands game. There is so much loot that loot almost just is not that exciting past a certain point. I honestly got to the point now where I'm only picking up legendary items. I'll pick up the occasional purple and blue if I need a little bit extra coin. But the stats on the gear, I mean, the stats are cool if you do dive into them and kind of look at them and kind of min-max. You can totally do that. But honestly, it's like you just find one overpowered weapon or spell or something that you don't replace it, and you just hold on to it and it just blasts everything. But as you're leveling up, you have your item level, kind of like a power creep all the way up, which is, that's okay. That's to be expected. It is an action game like that. Yeah, I'm not really going to deep dive into the itemization just because I felt it to be a little bit blah and just unexciting in general. Now, when it comes to character customization and what item slots you have and stuff like that, and how you can really make your character your own, with your item slots, you have 4 different slots for ranged weapons, guns, obviously, and you unlock more slots as you level up. You have 1 slot for a melee weapon. You have 2 ring slots. 1 slot's not unlocked until later in the game. You have your shield, which is where you get your ward, among other stats. And you also have an armor slot here, which you can see you can actually get bonus skill points from here, and you can actually overcap your skill points on the skill tree that I'll show here in a minute. You also have an amulet slot, and one of the most exciting slots, honestly, in my opinion, is the spell slot. I'm not sure if this is new with this game or if this was in other Borderlands games, but I don't remember it. This one, there's so many different types of spells that you can do in the game, anywhere from a meteor to like frost bolts you can shoot out. I don't know, I really like the different spells. However, I just go for whatever does the most damage and use that in general. That's pretty much it for your item slots and kind of how you can min-max your weapons and gear, I guess. Over on the skill tree, this is where things start to get interesting. When you first start out, you'll pick, I think there's 5 different classes in the game. You pick one of the 5. I went with the Graveborn just because it kind of was like a necromancer, summoner. I don't know, it just seemed cool. So that's why I picked it. Each class has a class feat, and it's just kind of like a passive ability that your class does. The one I'm using, I have the Demi-Lich Companion that shoots stuff and does stuff. It's pretty cool. And then you also, each class has 2 different like skills that you can pick from. Now keep in mind, you can only have 1 skill equipped at a time. So, you know, later on, obviously you can see you can pick a second class here. I went with Spore Warden. I just really like this ability. I sacrifice health and deal damage, and then I can leech all the life back. So it doesn't take that much health at all, and I just heal it back instantly. And then these are all the skill trees that I was talking about, like what you can get from your armor slot here. And so you can overcap. You can see like these in blue. If the number's in blue, those points are actually from my armor. And yeah, you can actually go above. So like if I could get 6 out of 3 for this if I wanted to, for whatever reason. One thing I found out in this game when trying to plan out my build was you can multi-class, obviously, here. Now, the very last skill on the tree is usually pretty overpowered. You can't get enough points in the game to get both of the last skill nodes, or whatever you want to call it, from both classes. And I think that's by design. I'm not complaining by any means. I'm just letting you know that that's a thing. That's pretty much, no, there's more to character customization as well. You also have your hero stats. These are your attribute points. I went into Constitution. These are all pretty basic, your strength, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, Constitution, and attunement. And they tell you what they do right here. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's cool to have options, I guess. And then you also have your loot luck, which you can enhance, crit chance, you know, all that good stuff that you would be kind of used to if you've played any RPG ever in your life. Oh, also, once you hit level cap, you hit level 40, you can unlock your mythic rank. This is, or myth rank, whatever. This is pretty much like a Paragon system, but what's awkward about it is you have these 4 skill trees, right? Well, you pick one skill tree that you want to start with, and then you can put 1 point into that skill tree, and then the game forces you to go on to the next one that is in numerical order. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I started with Druid, my next point I would have to put into Archmage. The next one after that, I have to put in Blade Master, and so on. So I couldn't just put all the points in the Druid if I wanted to. The game makes me diversify across all 4 skill trees. That's pretty much it for character customization. We do have a difficulty mode that we'll talk about with the Endgame. The Endgame on Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is where the game does fall short, in my opinion. But I want to go ahead and break it down for you anyway, just so you know what is there content-wise. First of all, you have the last bit of character customization that I forgot to talk about, and that is rolling enchants on your gear. It uses this blue coin currency. I've never ran out of it or had any issues, and there's quite a pool of enchanting effects that you can have. It's another layer of character customization. I just want to make sure I mention that. So now for the actual end game, you have 4 different game modes, and they're all pretty much the same across all 4. You have the featured run, which is a handcrafted mode for you. I believe this is a weekly challenge. You have a normal run, which is on average about a 20 to 30 minute run. You get extra crystals. You have an extended run, which is a longer version, and you also get 20% more crystals. And the 4th mode is Chaos Trials. Chaos Trial is how you actually increase your Chaos difficulty level. Once you complete the trial, you unlock the next Chaos level, and so on up until Chaos level 20. Chaos is another difficulty mode that if you've played Diablo 3 or anything like that, you'll be familiar with, where enemies get stronger, they deal more damage, they get more XP, and everything you can see over there on the left side of the screen. This does go up to Chaos level 20. What I find a little bit awkward, though, is I'm not sure, I don't know, I feel like the end game is a little bit claustrophobic. It's cool to have this Chaos level, but I wish that there was, like, open world content that I could go back and do, like maybe world bosses. You know, there's so many different elements and stuff. But hopefully there's DLC in the future that'll add more to do. Right now it does feel a little bit claustrophobic. But within each of these game modes, I believe they're all set up honestly all the same. You have 3 different floors that you do, and you know, the normal and extended or randomized. Once you do 3 floors, you have a mini boss. You do 3 more floors, and then you have a boss at the end. The boss at the very end is a campaign boss that you'll find from the story. But what's interesting about these, and I went ahead and fired one up here just for you for the video. You can you'll have a normal objective, you know, just to clear the encounter, kill all the monsters, blah blah blah. But you're also going to have a bonus objective, and there's only a few different bonus objectives I've seen. One's either to kill something, you know, defend something, or kill stuff while standing in a specific area. I think that's honestly all the ones I've encountered. Maybe there's more later on. But yeah, this one is destroy the Dragon Lord statue. While you're going through these chaos dungeons, you will also come across these buffs that you can use. These will last for the duration of that run, and they do cost these purple crystals. These crystals can also be used at the end of your run to open up and get more loot and kind of gamble. So you got to kind of decide if you want to hoard them or spend them on buffs. So once you complete one chaos dungeon floor, there's different things that can happen. You can see this one, the Dragon Lord spawned, and he's offering me 2 different curses or options here. We have an easy mode and a hard mode. Now, if I pick the hard mode, there's going to be new modifiers to get more crystals, and enemies have more chances to drop crystals as well. You're also going to have each floor, you'll have 2 different options, but there's a pool of 4 different portals that can actually pull. And, you know, like I said, there's only going to be 2 options for each run. But this one we're going to get extra crystals from this one. At the end, we'll get extra crystals. This one, we will have Butt Stallion show up and give us a buff at the end that's decided by the unicorn. And what's cool about this one as well is there's a pool of buffs that you can use to spend crystals on. But the buff that you get from Butt Stallion is actually given to you for free. The other 2 options are extra loot. It'll be indicated by like a treasure chest. And then the other option is it'll be a picture of the Dragon Lord. And what that is literally what we just did, where we picked one of the curses. So those are really the 4 options. It'll pick 2 of the 4 to show up after each run for your first 3 floors. And then once you complete your 3rd floor, I believe it is, that you'll go on to a mini boss, and then you'll do 3 more floors, rinse and repeat until you fight the final boss. And that's really the end game all the way through. The last thing I guess I should mention about the end game is you do have 3 lives, and if you're playing in multiplayer, those 3 lives are shared across all characters that are currently in your party. One other cool thing too is you can actually use crystals to make the next floor an elite version, a harder version, more loot, more fun, so on. But it's really, that's all the end game is all the way through across all 4 of the game modes. Now that you know everything that there is within Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and you know my opinions about the storytelling and how well written the story mode was, and dude, it really is good, because Tiny Tina will just be narrating things, and it'll just happen in real time while you're playing through a quest and stuff. It's the storytelling is really good. But yeah, the end game was a little bit short for me, and unfortunately, the loot and just that end game loop in general just really didn't keep me engaged as long as I had hoped for. Hopefully in the future, a DLC will drop adding more content. Right now, it just feels like kind of half-baked, because you're unlocking all these chaos levels while doing the same thing over and over, which I guess is kind of a trend. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a first-person shooter, which isn't my first choice of game. I'm not sure what it is, but something in the game just really didn't keep me interested as long as I wanted to. But at the end of the day, you know, I paid $65 for the game, got just under 40 hours out of it, and I don't regret spending the money. This is one of the best storytelling experiences I've had in a long time from a game. Hopefully with all this knowledge, you can now go ahead and make a educated choice on if you want to spend your money on Tiny Tina's Wonderlands or not. Let me know down in the comments what you decide. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.